Hope everybody had an awesome Easter. Great Easter weekend, great Easter, and we definitely hope that your week's off to a great start. Thanks for tuning back in with us. Let's get right into it. We are joined by none other than the Maryland Muscle Machine. Thank God we have big chairs here. Kevin Lavrone, one of the most decorated and celebrated bodybuilders in the history of the planet. So, thank you for your time, Kev. Thanks for being here.
Thank you
Really
very much.
appreciate it, man.
Thank you, John.
Let's get right into it, man.
Let's go, brother.
Bodybuilders. They've always had this connotation about them, these big, dumb, lumbering meatheads, no personality, roid heads. Of course, I'm sure you've heard every perceived insult in the books, but then, a guy like you comes along, well-versed, very well-spoken, extremely charismatic, deeply religious. I can go on and on and on, and you
Yeah.
really break the mold here. So, what's the one thing that a lot of people, in your opinion, should know about the bodybuilding sport, and because it is a sport, and
Yeah, it is.
the athletes.
I think every athlete. I mean, you follow so many sports. I don't know how we got that stereotypical, meathead thing, or how it even came about. Because if you look at the Mr. Olympias and the history of our sport, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is very charismatic.
I mean, he's arguably
I
the
mean,
most
yeah.
decorated and
Look
celebrated
at what he's accomplished. I mean,
action actor in the history of the world.
and being able, like I remember, coming from a kid and just to where we are now, whether it's the sport of bodybuilding or any other sport, you always have to start with a vision. So to create a physique and to be able to accomplish certain levels of winning a show and being able to perform on stage, I mean, it's a whole, that individual has to have some kind of artistic creativity vision to his mind and the things that he has going on in his mind to be able to sacrifice, what you have to sacrifice to even get to that level. So um I know a lot of my brothers, man, a lot of the IFBB pro guys, from Flex Wheeler to Sean Ray to Dorian Yates to Jay Cutler to Ronnie Coleman to Arnold Schwarzenegger to Lou Ferrigno to Frank Zane, and I spent time with Lee Labrada and Rich Gaspari, and you talk about the top guys, down to Albert Beckles and just all the guys that came before me, and they have their own unique, different personality. I think people just judge and say musclehead based on what they see, but very seldom, or what they read in the magazine, right? And it's easy to say that about someone if you don't know them, if you haven't never spent time with that person. And out of all fairness, like what we do is when our sport started, it just started from the magazines. There was no really one-on-one interaction with the fans. They would just read a story about us, read the article, how we eat, then they would see us on stage, performing. So it was kind of like that distance there because bodybuilding it's not such a mainstream sport, right?
Sure.
So you can't really go to a TV show and you didn't have that opportunities to get to know our personalities and what our home life was and things like this. So it was kind of hard to express yourself because all we had in the beginning is just the magazines. Now it's a little different because we have social media and things that you're doing for me now, like this interview, and people can get a chance to hear us actually speak.
Yeah.
And get a little more involved in wow, that person is kind of there's something unique and different about him. And if you look at the bodybuilders, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could talk about Kai Green. He has this uniqueness. There's something about him that's just different. So we're able to express that now through the social media and everything. But no, most of the bodybuilders at that level, these guys are very, very creative, man. They have a huge vast of talent. Some of the guys came from football. I think Ronnie Coleman, played football. Sean Ray, he played football as well. A lot of these guys have degrees and college, degrees and stuff behind them as well. But you just don't hear about that, because everybody want to know.
'Cause they like to judge something
Yeah, they
based
want to
on the
know about
cover.
the freak side. How did you get so big? How much can
Right.
you bench press? And that's all they want to hear.
Hmm.
How much do you eat, right? And you tell them, yeah, I'm bench pressing 500 or 600 pounds. Well, he must be some freak. And then they put that in a certain category of, well, you know, what are you doing to do that? And then that leads into, other stuff. So, yeah.
All right, Kev. So we touched on it during the opening, and I know the answer is going to be yes. The one thing that I really appreciate about your social media that you touched on just now is your deep relationship with God, and you're very religious, and probably not something that most people would expect from somebody who travels the world, because a lot of times religion is taboo. So, talk about your relationship with God, your religion, your faith, and how it's helped you get to where the pinnacle you were at, and as far as you've come along in life, not just as a performer, but as a human.
Mm. I was young. I grew up, it was six kids, three boys and three girls, and I was the youngest. My mother always took me to church with my sisters. Two older brothers didn't go, just me. Um, this instilled at a young age, ever since I was a kid. My mom would take me to church, and she was, an usher in church, and I would just watch her and listen to the music and everything. But I think being in this environment, and you see how that can be applied to your daily life, weekly life, into the family life as well. My parents, they prayed before dinner. My father was Catholic, and my mother's, Christian, and just praying. And I saw the calmness. My parents, they never argued. And they just led by an example. And I would always see my father, Italian father. I always see him after he come home from work. He would be praying before he go to bed at night, and he wouldn't say much. But my parents never threw religion on us. Never really even talked about it. I just saw it, around.
Mm.
I saw it in them, and I saw the love and the passion and the kindness, that my mother would have and my father would have, and feeding other families in the neighborhood. And my mother would, invite, kids back then. Some my brothers had friends who were quite homeless and stuff.
The
And
neighborhood, of course, was where.
it was in Marley Neck, down in Glen Burnie, Pasadena area. So yeah, man, it was just beautiful to see how they would open their home up to people in need, and just share everything we had with everyone else. And then my father died from cancer. Like in 30 days, like he was gone. He had leukemia, man. I was only 10 years old. And my father's funeral was the first funeral I ever went to. And he was just gone. And I had a question, and I asked my mother. I said, "Mama," I said, "God is so good, and why did he take Daddy and leave you with
Mhm.
5 kids and everything else?" And she looked at me, and we were at my father's funeral, and I asked her this question, and she says, "Kevin," she has never questioned God. He always knows what he's doing. He has a greater plan, and she never even cried. So I saw the strength in her faith, and she continued. She never got remarried, and like I said, I was 10, and just seeing how she just gained her strength and just kept continuing to be even more loving and caring. 4 months after that, my my aunt died, which is my mother's sister. She died. 2 weeks after that, my grandmother died. My mother's mom died.
Wow.
And our grandmother lived with us, and I was just like, oh man, And my mom was still steadfast, man, still reading the Bible and everything. So that strength, I just applied that to no matter how bad it is, no matter what you're going through in life, as long as you never quit and you never give up, and you realize that everything is for a greater purpose, and it's not really about you and your situation, but it's about making it an example. And she made an example for me, not even knowing it. And my mom passed away before I even turned pro, and I believe that because of the way that I saw my parents live, I'm able now to, go out and be strong, for less fortunate kids and less fortunate families, and be there for families who can't have surgeries. So I dedicate my time and money to, John Hopkins Children's Center, and doing all that research for families who can't afford, surgeries and stuff. That's my way of giving back. And I just find strength in going around the world and to places just complete poverty, and you see the beauty and simplicity of, when I'm in India, you have a family of 10 living in an 8 by 8 room, and there's so much love there, regardless of their religion. But there's a connection to God, that their way of finding God just builds strength in the weakest moments in life, And I don't know if my father had this conversation with God or not. Maybe he did, because he probably knew his time was to go. And but I couldn't imagine what he was going through, sitting in that hospital waiting 30 days, and not knowing that he's leaving his wife and 6 kids behind, and not able to say goodbye to them properly. And I think about this, John, when I go out and I give seminars, and I say, God's might have taken, and my mother ended up dying from cancer too. So this is kind of like what drove me into bodybuilding, And this is actually how I got started into bodybuilding, eating healthy and things like this, because and both of them died from cancer. I don't want to die from cancer. But I think about it, my position, and I never thought I'd end up being one of the greatest bodybuilders in the world, and 23 pro shows, second 18 times and 9-time world champion. But when I go out and I look and I think, that's where I gain my strength. And if I knew that God had a conversation with me, because I have a 10-year-old son, 11-year-old boy now, and God said, hey, Kev, I'm going to have to take you out, but your son is going to, he's going to be greater man and be on a greater platform to do well. Are you okay with that? I said, yeah, God, go ahead and take my life. If my son is, because that's what the purpose is of being a man, right? It's just setting an example for your kids so that he can take it further than what we are here called to take it. So when I think about where I came from, and I think about the opportunities that lie ahead of me, I always try to stay humble. And it's not about me. It's about what I can do and what God has gifted me. Even though all the adversities of losing my father, losing my brother, I lost 2 brothers, my mother died before I turned pro and everything. And I just realized that, life is a special, certain gift, and we have to cherish every moment and pay attention to every single individual person around us and treat them with respect. It's not about me, Kevin Lavrone. It's about the position that I'm holding. And I'm holding this to give love, to give confidence, to instill direction when there's people out there in the weakest moments. And I've had some people come to me, several people come to me and said, man, because of you and the way you carry yourself, you've given me strength, and I continue to move forward,
That's got to be a hell of a feeling too, and you get that all over the world. As you touched
Everywhere.
on India, and it seems like every time I talk to you, you're in a different part of
Yeah,
the
man.
globe.
You know.
So, just picking up those dumbbells for the first time has allowed you to travel the entire globe. You just talk about that and the effect that you just touched on. You're able to have on people throughout the world. And the thing that I find unique about you and your standing is I see the 10-year-old kids and the 20-year-old kids commenting on your stuff, but I've had very successful men come to me and be like, oh man, Kevin Lavrone, I used to read all his magazines growing up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, what that makes you feel like and how blessed you've been, the doors that it's opened, bodybuilding, for you to travel the globe. It seems like 300 days a year.
Yeah, I've visited about 72 different countries in the last 24 months. Been to places where, people say, you shouldn't go there, you're crazy, I just feel compelled, because, for instance, going into Iraq, right? Baghdad, most people won't even go there right now. Or into Soleimani, Iraq. Matter of fact, I was the first bodybuilder ever went into Iraq.
I feel like the
You
Middle
know,
East is a really big growing
it's
market for
huge. It's
bodybuilding
huge,
right
man.
now.
You know, and you see the social media again stereotyping someone saying, they're this or they're that because of their religion or there's something alienated about them. But I said, you know what? They're human beings. I'm no better than they are. And if they're showing me love and opening their doors to me, for me to come over, I'm going to do it. And I took that chance. And I'm so glad I did because I learned so much about humility and being humble, and this is the time when you're talking about, ISIS. I was 200 meters from ISIS, in these areas, and these Muslim brothers, man, opened their family, they opened a house to me, and I'm over there, an American, and the first one that has traveled and toured the whole entire country. And I had the military behind me. I had the vice president over there. They greeted me at the airport when I showed up, and all I felt, John, was love, and it wasn't everybody knows I'm a Christian, they know I'm a Christian, but they didn't attack my Christianity. They just knew that I was there because I cared and I made a sacrifice, and I knew that they had done the same thing. If somebody opens their home up to you, invite you in with their kids, and it was one of the most humbling um, experiences that I've ever experienced. When you hear someone say, "Well, these people are a certain way," well, it's not true. And I always say, you can't criticize somebody until you walk a mile in their moccasins. And even to this day, you know what I mean. It's just a lot of love and a lot of love, and that's why I always say one love. Because love heals all, and love says everything. And a lot of times they don't even have to understand what you're saying. They could just feel the vibe. You know what I mean? And I knew that. You know what? I'm glad I did, and I stayed there for three weeks, man, traveling the whole countryside. It's beautiful. I mean, the food, the food and the fish and everything is just so pure and so untouched. But what I saw is I saw brothers and I saw families that just were so united together, and sticking together and working together as a unit. And I hadn't seen this in America in such a long, long, long time, and we kind of gotten away from that, So when I go to these countries like India and Iraq and Iran and Russia, I was in St. Petersburg, Russia. Again, they said don't go to Russia. I was just in Russia probably about 8 months ago. Traveling from Moscow all the way down to Kazakhstan, all the way to the end of Russia. Um, for 2 or 3 weeks, man. And the same thing. It's just so. It's so these people are caring, they're loving, and it's not about politics. And you see how the families live and they stick together, and it's the most simple things that makes it so beautiful. So I appreciate them. They support me. My company is in Russia. Matter of fact, Russia is one of my most biggest clients that I have, and also all my Middle Eastern brothers. All of my Muslim brothers over there. We sell to them, man, and they show their loyalty, and I just I can't say no to love. You know what I mean?
You said that you hadn't seen that kind of love in America, but with everything that's been going on lately, I feel like we're seeing a lot of really good people step up, and not just that, but we're seeing just more love in general. You're seeing people lose the materialistic desires a lot more because they're seeing that they don't matter. Do you think that there's going to be a lot of silver linings that come out of this, the corona crisis? Do you think that maybe one of them will be the fact that we can start looking at each other and saying, hey, just because we don't have the same favorite sports team, just
Yeah.
because we don't go to the same church, doesn't mean that we're not all together in this human race?
Because right now, like you were saying, everybody is showing a lot of love and support and respect and helping each other. I think we're all somehow God has allowed it to be an even playing field now, and I hope that when things do get back, whatever our normal will end up being again, we've learned to adapt without, and I think Americans did get spoiled, and we're kind of like very, very selfish, So I just hope that we continue to not judge people, be there to help one another like we are now, and not forget, because it's always, when you don't have something, you become real, real humble. Hey God, help me. When you go through that hardship, and doctor says, oh, hey, you might not live 6, 7 months. You just get real humble, real quick. I believe that, hey, America is very, very humble. The whole world is very, very humbled right now. More so the USA because of our crisis. And I hope we just keep that humility no matter what we have. Just keep the humility and love, because that's really what is the core of everything that we have, is really what it's all about. And that's what I would like to see us here as a nation, just continue to be as one, regardless of how much money we have or how much opportunity we have. Look out for the individual and the families that don't have what we have, at least. So this is what I want to see, man. I want to see this with the economy booming again.
One of your favorite, probably trademark sayings, honestly, is if the mind can see it, the body can achieve it.
Yeah.
And that's always struck a chord with me. I love it. I know a lot of people love it that I've talked to. Just elaborate on what it means and why it's helped you, become the owner of the saying, so to speak.
Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, things happen for a certain reason. Like I said, my father, um, seeing that casket and him there, and my mom, and at that point, I wanted to do something, rise to the occasion, of making my mother proud of me. So I think I just saw some role models and things that inspired me, and visualize, from watching TV and reading magazines, and every boy, he needs a role model, right? And I always say, you never know how much you're impacting someone, because you can impact someone just by them looking at you. You don't necessarily have to talk to them; just see how you carry yourself. And I started reading a lot of Bruce Lee philosophy. Bruce Lee, he's a philosopher. Then I got into the martial arts at 10 years old. Study martial arts all the way up until I ended up getting in bodybuilding, and I had to make a decision. So I learned about the mind and how the mind process, and I intertwined that with God, and found a belief in myself, because bodybuilding, it really, I grasped with that because I was able to do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, and see a change in my body, right? And then I started thinking, wow, if I do this because I read this in the magazine, I'm able to do this if I apply myself, right? And I just got fully committed to going to the gym, learning how to eat, and changing things, because where the mind goes, the body will follow, right? And I saw myself just transforming slowly every week, things were happening. It was because of my thought process. It almost was like my mind was programming my body's DNA to not quit, not give up. It hurts, but the pain go away. You're going to have growth within the hardship, within the pains, right? That's where we learn. That's where we grow. And okay, yeah, my dad passed away, but I became stronger because I went to go do a little more research, even though I carried that pain with me. But hey, apply that into the gym. And that being in the gym in that solitude place, where your mind goes, your body will actually follow, because I didn't have anybody teaching me what to do or when to do anything, right? I had to find my way through what was going to work for me. And this is how I found it. And it was the sport of bodybuilding. And I gravitated also to bodybuilding, John, because I was able to watch my body grow to unbelievable things were happening, right? And I'm like, wow, this is cool. I said, you know what? I'm not going to place my success or my accomplishments on what someone else thinks of me. I know that if I'm in control, that I can do this, right? So here you got this kid, man. I graduated high school. I was 140 some pounds, you know? And next thing you know, couple years after that, I'm second in the Mr. Olympia,
Right.
you know, on a grand stage, as second, you know, Mr. Olympia pro bodybuilder in the entire world. It was almost like a miracle just happened. So I just fully applied myself and became fully committed. And I'm thinking, man, if someone can do that, not only me, but if people can do that, then that's the missing link. That's the chance, you know. Whether you're a doctor, surgeon, football, whatever it is you want to accomplish, you have to find your own way and totally commit and believe in yourself. And you can almost do anything, man.
Yeah, and I apply that actually to my businesses, my business practices. And if you don't believe in your brand, why should somebody else? You know, it's the same exact thinking right there. That I like to work out. So the mind, then the body follows. You believe in the brand, the people will follow, and it's no different. And I've always leaned on you for that, Kev. I just want to talk about a lot of people right now are stuck at home, obviously,
Yeah.
and they're getting fat. Talk about the importance of keeping a clean diet, not just now, but year round, because people think if you want to lose weight for the summertime or if you want to put on some muscle for a sport, you just got to go hit the gym, right? But the truth is, no matter who you are, you can't out-train a bad diet. So even if somebody at home doesn't have a ton of gym equipment, if they don't have an elliptical, if they don't have a Peloton, speak of the importance of the diet compared to the actual workout and why it means so much more than they think.
It does, because we are what we eat. You know, we perform on what we eat. You know, if you have, and always when I go out and I do my seminars and everything, if you have a kid who doesn't eat right, and who is not healthy, nourished properly, then, and if you have that same kid and you have that same kid that's, say it's Kevin, overweight, fat, at, 10 years old, I'm 200 pounds, and it's Kevin at 10 years old that's completely nourished. Or there's Kevin at 10 years old that's malnourished. The malnourished Kevin, because of his nutrition, isn't going to be able to perform like, the Kevin who has all of his nutrition. Or the overweight Kevin is not going to be able to have the confidence that he needs to do what he needs to do. So the nutrition it's key factor to how we think and how we perform and how we make decisions every single aspect of our lives, because that is who you are. And when you can just change the way you think by changing your nutrition, and I'm gonna say something like, if you have someone that's on alcohol, someone that's hooked on drugs constantly, right? That becomes who they are because it takes over their thought, their mind, and you see it. You see how they are. But if you get them off that, right, then they start thinking clearly. They actually change into, who they can be, So nutrition plays a huge part in our strength, our decision making, how we sleep at night, and our energy level, and of course, our health.
Yeah.
Our health, and there's no way of getting around that, and it's very important to have a balanced diet. And if you don't have a balanced diet, I would highly recommend someone out there to just start eating good. If you want to not eat good every now and then, I don't eat good all the time, but there's times where I can back up off of it. And we've talked about this, John. You don't have to be strict. Like Kevin Lavrone is not strict eating all the time,
Yeah.
But I know when it's time for me to do that, and I know when I'm starting to slip to the wayside and not be so sharp in other aspects of my life as well. So
Well,
it's key.
The Rock's notorious for doing that cheat meal every Sunday
Yeah,
and
it's key.
broadcasting it.
It's key, man. You know, nutrition is the key to everything.
Speaking of nutrition, a lot of people, I would say, over the last 3 or 4 years, have really gotten on the paleo / keto trains. It seems like a lot of people are going down that path. I know you, and I knew Todd Sweeney before he passed, and you've always preached the traditional, protein, whether it's a fish or a chicken with a green and a starch, just what's worked since the beginning of time, basically, and eating every 3 or so hours, right,
Yes.
to speed up your metabolism. And full disclosure, I've been doing Kevin's diet since the beginning of this corona epidemic, basically, and I'm down from 246 pounds to 228 pounds, eating 6 meals a day.
Yeah.
So I'm eating more than ever and losing weight. So it definitely works. But people are seeing immediate results with these keto diets, with these paleo diets. Can you talk about how sustainable they are, if they're healthy, in your opinion?
Yeah,
Of
my
course,
opinion.
nobody has all the answers.
My opinion, just the body needs vegetables, it needs carbohydrates, and it needs protein. These are the main sources of what we need. If you don't keto, it's. I mean, I think you will think you're getting energy over a long term. Not healthy.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does the keto diet burn muscle in addition to the fat? I think I read that somewhere. I might be wrong. Ketosis, as they call it.
No, what happens is because you're feeding your body fat, right? And when you get into ketosis, that means that your body is eating the muscle for energy. So you're able to go on this keto diet because you're fueling it with the protein and with the fat and stuff. So you don't go to a ketosis state, because you're not mixing the carbohydrates with it. So therefore, the carbs doesn't turn to sugar, and whatever you're eating is not going to turn to fat. You're just fueling your body on a ketosis, this keto diet. That's what that does. Over a period of time, month, I don't think this is healthy, because you're not giving your body the balance of, the carbohydrates, the vegetables, everything else. People do it for a quick fix. Maybe lose 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Some people 20 pounds. But I don't think this is my opinion, healthy for a long period of time. No, I wouldn't do it.
How about the intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fast, I'm okay with that. You do fasted cardio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to your diet.
Yeah, I do fasted cardio. Um,
And fasted cardio, for those that aren't aware, is
Yeah.
first thing in the morning, you
Yeah.
do 30 to 40 minutes light cardio.
Yes. And you target a heart rate zone for burning fat because your sugar level is at its lowest point in the morning. Your blood sugar level is at its lowest point. This is the time where your body will burn the fat for energy. John, if you look at the military guys when they go into basic training, right?
Mhm.
I've had cousins who went in the military, and they go in and they come back 3, months later. They look totally different. Man, what did you do? It's because they get up 4 o'clock in the morning. They start running. They don't chow down until after they get that cardio out of
Right.
the way. And they're burning that fat off. So that works. Fasted cardio works. Definitely works. And just for the listeners out there, this is the proper way to do cardio for burning fat is fasted cardio in the morning before you eat your meals. After that, yeah, you can go ahead and eat your meals. A lot of people say, well, can I do my cardio later in the day? Well, no, not really. Well, you can, but you're not going to burn that fat. You're just going to burn off all the calories that you've consumed throughout the day. You're not really going to be doing anything. So you got to know when and where, based on your daily activity, what you got going on. Yeah.
in terms of training, most of the guys that Rogan's had on his podcast say that at their peak, they were at 3 or 4 days a week training, which is pretty crazy to me because when you think of these big bodybuilders, you think they're in the gym day and night, but the body needs rest, right? And that's when
Yeah.
it grows.
Right.
So I mean, how's that? How many days a week would you recommend people work out if they're trying to change their bodies?
I'd say at least 3 days a week. When I first started, I got in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
So there's definitely overtraining.
Yeah, you could definitely overtrain. I've overtrained before. I think some people can get addicted to too much cardio, not eating enough food. I see a lot of women do it, man. They really get on the treadmill and they get on the treadmill and run for like 4 hours. Non-stop. And they're already this size, string down, unhealthy. But a lot of times, you need balance. You need balance. And I always say it's always good to have balance. Not take everything so serious and to the extreme to where it's controlling your every single thought process. So you have to be careful, because you see people, they see themselves lose weight and then they don't know when to stop losing weight. Okay, you've lost enough weight, you're good to go. So you got to be careful. It's very, very tricky, That's why it's good to have someone watch you while you're doing your dieting and everything, because I've seen people just take it to the extreme, and just, it can get very, very unhealthy.
Yeah. Speaking of the extreme, I think that the sport of bodybuilding it fell recently in terms of popularity. I think that the numbers would reflect that. The purchases of magazines would reflect that. And the reason is a lot of people felt that these competitors were just getting too big, right? That this look was not attractive anymore. They referenced, the stomach area especially getting too big. And when they would compare them to pictures of yesteryear, guys like yourself, guys like Arnold, the symmetry wasn't there as much. This wasn't something that you could comfortably walk around in. But I think that recently it's come a little more back towards the traditional look, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, the evolution, if you want to call it that, and what you think the male body should look like on that stage.
I think, interesting. You said that, it can get to a point to where there's too much. You look really just too freaky, and our sport did get to that point to where it wasn't pleasing to the eye anymore. It was just,
Attendance was down, right?
yeah, and it was just so untainable and so out of touch with reality. The only thing that someone could do, and they look at a human being looking like that, was just automatic, steroids, straight up, boom. People aren't stupid, So I'm just happy that the industry and the federation has been able to bring in new categories. Like you have classic physique now, men's physique, classic physique, where these guys are going. They're very aesthetic looking. You know what I'm talking about. These guys are 225. Some of them are 230, and they brought back the classic lines and the old school posing and all
Right.
these things. So it's definitely becoming a lot more mainstream now, especially with the social media and everything that we have. So I feel like now the industry has a hold on it and knows what to do and what's working. It's very, very mainstream. You don't have to be a mass monster nowadays to be successful in our sport.
And you're seeing a lot more mainstream celebrities show up to these shows now. A lot of pro athletes are showing up to all the events. And no matter what sport you play, you're probably going to borrow some sort of training from bodybuilders, right? So
Yeah,
bodybuilders,
everything.
whether they realize it or not, they're affecting basketball players.
Yeah.
Because compare Michael Jordan per se to LeBron James, the body is much different. Compare a
Yeah.
football player now to a football player 20 years ago, much different. And obviously they're borrowing
Yeah.
techniques and strategies from the bodybuilding world, right?
Yeah, and we know that every every battleship every high school, college, all of these universities, they have some serious gyms in there now, man. Like, it's certainly evolved, you know. And all this stuff stemmed from bodybuilding, squats. Every sport squats. Everybody squats, man. Squat, you know, deadlift and bench press. That's it. So it's definitely it's bodybuilding is a founding the founding father for, I think, all sports.
Yeah, no doubt about
Even
it.
swimmers too. You know, they do the kettlebell things. They do the sit ups. They do the push ups. They do the pull ups. You know, before.
Isn't it funny how everything's coming back
Yeah.
to the basics now?
It really
so we
is.
saw the CrossFit boom. You know, we
Mhm.
saw these crazy workouts going down all these different avenues, but now everything seems to be coming back to
Yeah.
traditional. 4 sets of bench, 4 sets of squat,
Yeah.
and people are going for that classic look again.
Mhm.
It kind of shows you and lends credence to what we talked about earlier, the diet. If it worked 40 years ago with humans, it'll probably still work now
Yeah.
because we've if it hurt us, we would have found
course.
out about it.
Yeah,
Speaking of which,
definitely.
whatever happened to the Atkins diet?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that
You
was
know?
kind of the first fad when I
Yeah.
was getting into it, and then it just was it causing heart problems, I believe, in people
I heard some things. Yeah.
because there's so much steak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow, man.
It'll be
You
interesting.
went way back on that one.
It'll be interesting to see if the paleo and the keto diets are looked at that way in 20, 30 years as well.
Yeah.
But Kev,
Wow,
thanks for your
man.
time, man.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, and I hope everybody
Yeah.
learned a lot, not just about all your philosophies, but you, the person, while
you,
they're
John.
sitting home on this quarantine. And
Yeah. Right.
hopefully they're doing a couple sit-ups and push-ups after this and saying no to that Domino's delivery.
I know, right? Because look, man, I just want to say, I mean, look what Jimmy's doing. I mean, you guys are custom designing meals, for
Yeah.
athletes. Not only athletes, for everyone
everybody,
out there that
yeah.
wants to eat healthy, and the food is really, really good. I mean, when I was coming along in my time, we didn't have that. I mean, it's great that you guys are providing that platform, especially here in Baltimore, in Maryland and around the areas, because it's just helping everybody, that platform of eating healthy, providing the meals and all this and everything, and it's certainly evolved, man. So I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for jumping in, and your family jumping in and supporting all athletes, not only bodybuilders,
Yeah.
but supporting all athletes in that most important nutritional what we need, man. So
When we launched the Jimmy's Famous Meals program, we didn't want to just have that label on us as targeting athletes and targeting bodybuilders. We wanted this for everybody, the nurses, the doctors,
Oh,
the
yeah.
teachers that just wanted to clean up their diet a little
Yeah.
bit, but don't have time to cook maybe. And, thankfully, the athletes have supported us, and, hardworking, blue-collar, everyday people have supported us as well. And it's great, and I think people are really taking advantage of it
Yeah.
now that they're stuck at home.
Of course,
Yeah.
man. I mean, you guys are helping a lot of people in a lot of different ways, man. And so I just wanted to tell you that,
Thanks, man.
really.
Appreciate that. So before we sign off, we got to close it with Kevin's signature shaboom.
Oh, yeah, well. What's up, man? It's Kevin Lavrone sitting here in the house, baby. Coming to you guys from, man, John here, Jimmy Seafood Lavrone Signature Series in the house, Baltimore, Maryland. Holding things down, quarantine, baby. You know how we rolling, John, right? 1, 2, 3, baby. Boom. That's how we're rolling. Peace and one love.